So I had completed all my pages 2-3 minutes beforehand, and I could not write the last part of the last case study. But then I still got 138, which means that case studies is not as important as your section A. So start with section A first while writing. Start from question 1 till the last. So go in that direction, then start your case studies and then complete them. How should I make a template which gives points from various diverse areas? So here comes a 7-step process. So the first step here will be to have a set of ethical thinkers, Western philosophers with you.
He has stepped in the shoes of the decision maker, expressed what he is. उसने अपनी पूरी personality add की है इस answer में. His answer doesn't sound mechanical. That's the X factor.
See, introduction is something which is like a starter for the examiner. It should hook the examiner. I think introductions are much more important than your conclusions. Personal opinion this is, because similarly how YouTube videos, we have a hook in the beginning of the YouTube video. We cut out the videos and we put the highlights of it in the beginning so that a viewer is hooked to the video. Similarly, a hook should be there in the beginning of the introduction. Most of you, this I think would be a mixed crowd. Most of you will be studying for the 2026 mains, and some will be preparing for mains in general. So this is a mixed crowd. So, and this session will be in accordance with that. Like some things, will be useful for both of you guys. So that is what we will be looking at it here. So ethics is something where I put in a lot of efforts from my 2023 attempt downwards. Just to give a brief about my attempts, I couldn't clear my prelims in the first 2 attempts, which is 23 and 24. But then in the 2020 attempt, I was able to clear it in the entirety. So that was the first prelims I cleared, and I was able to clear it, and I was able to get 138 marks in ethics. So to get 138 marks, rather than what I put in these coming next 2 months, I had done a lot of efforts prior hand on basis of the micro themes that are there and writing PYQs that have been done. So, but for what you guys can do in the coming 2 months for mains, that would be the major thing that we'll be talking about in this session. So the first thing is this is a tried and tested thing which I did, was to go in accordance to the PYQs. And in particularly with respect to PYQs, I would want you guys to look at the micro themes that are there in the PYQs. Why is it so? Is it just important for ethics? It is important for all the subjects, but particularly for ethics, it is very important because they have given generalist, topics, syllabus heads. They have already given in the syllabus. Now, in those heads, they are, chunks, big chunks have been given in the syllabus. So how to break those chunks down into various aspects? For example, so if you look at it, for example, take the seventh point. So it is a huge chunk. They're talking about public civil service values and ethics in public administration. In that, they're talking about a lot of things: ethical concerns, dilemmas, laws, rules, regulations, and conscience as sources of ethical guidance, accountability and ethical governance, strengthening of ethical and moral values. So there are a lot of subparts in this one particular heading itself, right? So now how should we know which PYQs have been asked from which subpart? So that is again a bit of a difficult exercise to go about. So that has been made much easier for you guys because of the Civilsdaily micro themes that have been given, where, for example, we'll go to that 7th topic itself, where they will be, dividing, the micro themes part of the 7th topic. So there they will be dividing the syllabus point into the various micro themes, and will also enumerate the questions that have been asked in the particular theme as well. So what I still remember what I did before any sectional test in these 2 months, what I used to do was I used to take up the micro themes book. I used to go through the syllabus and see the micro themes that have been asked so that I can concentrate properly on the specific stuff that have been asked. For example, from here we can look at that accountability is something that they are asking again and again. So here they're talking about social capital and how does it enhance good governance. Then what do you understand by the term good governance? How far recent initiatives in terms of e-governance has helped it? Then next question is, an independent and empowered social audit mechanism is absolute must. Okay. Then next question is, what do you understand by terms of governance, good governance and ethical governance? So from these things, again, accountability is the next question. Then next, so there are 5 questions here, right? And they all talk about good governance. And for good governance as well, they are also linking good governance with what 2 things. The second question is talking about e-governance. But that also talks about what? E-governance does what? It helps in accountability. So accountability is the common theme across the 5 questions that are here given here. So the fourth question, again, the fifth question also talks about accountability and a social audit mechanism. So what are they talking about social audit mechanism? In essence, they're talking about which value? The accountability value only. So you can now see that accountability is a theme that they're asking. So now what you can do is you can form a proper template for these type of questions, generally asking about accountability, how to improve accountability, and how to improve accountability, and how that accountability improvement will help in your good governance and ethical governance. So now this is the common template that you should have, and you can have some points in it. I will give you what template that you should have. I have a 7-step process for that as well. I'll be saying that as well to you. But this is how you have to use your micro themes, is what I'm saying. Now come to the next micro theme. It talks about conflict of interest. Right. Now, what are the 3 questions that have been asked? What is meant by conflict of interest? Illustrate with example the difference between actual and potential conflict of interest. This is a very basic question that they've asked in 2018. Then what is the next, or the year before that, what they've asked? Conflict of interest in public sector arises when official duty, public interest, personal matters are taken priority one above the other. How can this conflict in administration be resolved? Again, it is the same question. They've repeated the same question. So it is again now a micro theme. Now look at the third one. Public servants are likely to conflict with the issues of conflict of interest. Again, the same question has been repeated. So now this is a theme. So now you will have a fixed template for conflict of interest as well. So that whenever they're asking any question on conflict of interest, in whatever form they might, like the form of the question might vary, but the essential substance that is there beneath it, it won't change at all. So that is what you will be doing here. So you have a basic template set, and conflict of interest is something which comes into help where? In your case studies as well. There will be certain case studies talking about conflicts of interest. So it comes into play there as well. So you can take a look at that as well, right? So that is there. Then constitutional morality. So constitutional morality in 2025, it was asked in what? It was not just asked in ethics, it was asked in your GS-2 as well. So that is again something which is a very important theme, and you should have a template for this as well. Now I'm talking about various templates. So what templates should I be having? That is again a question. So you're talking to me about templates. You're asking me to have templates. How should I make a template? How should I make a template which, gives points from various diverse areas, right? So here comes a 7-step process. So the first step here will be to have a set of ethical thinkers, Western philosophers with you. So here you will have your Aristotle, you will have your Plato, you will have your Socrates. All these people, you will be having them over here, right? Then your second step will be to have who? The Indian thinkers, right? So Indian thinkers may you will be having your basically your Gandhi, Vivekananda, Tagore, Amartya Sen for that matter, and obviously all the thinkers that come from India, the Kautilya. So all this will be in your second step. Then the third step is where the ethical terms come into play. And I believe Civilsdaily also have a PDF for the ethical terms as well, where they talk about the various differentiating, things between the various terms for example, objectivity, neutrality, transparency. So have a set of ethical keywords so that you can sprinkle them across your answers across section A, right? So this would be your third step. So basically what you're doing in the third step is to increase your ethical vocabulary. Right. So ultimately, what are we going to do? What we are going to do is we are going to make sure that our paper doesn't look like a governance paper or a GS2 paper. So to make sure that it doesn't look like a GS2 paper, we have to use our ethical keywords. So you can use the PDF that they have given, and you can take out ethical keywords from that and keep it in a separate place. So that would be your third step, right? Now coming to the fourth step. The fourth step is to have ready-made definitions and conclusions ready. So here, as you can see, there are 3 keywords: answerability, responsibility, and accountability. So now you might think that all 3 are the same things. No, but they are different keywords with subtle differences between them, and they can be used in various aspects of an answer, or they can be used across 3 or 4 answers as well, right? So I want you to have these kind of words set together in your third step. And in your fourth step, go for the definitions of these terms, and they can be used across various aspects of one answer itself and across various aspects of different answers as well, right? So for this, you need to know the definitions of them. So that will be your fourth step. where you collect the accurate definitions of these keywords and also have quotes ready to justify them as well. So answerability, responsibility, accountability, you have your definitions. Then coming down, you will have other keywords as well, like neutrality, impartiality, objectivity. So now they have given you ready-made definitions here. So you can use this as your fourth step, having proper definitions for each of the keywords you had in your third step. Now coming to the fifth step, we bring in the examples part. So you should have a good number of examples that help you in, like justifying these terms that you have. So in the fifth step, what I would like you to do is have a set of civil servants that are there, around 30 to 35 civil servants who, not, something which not everyone uses, but are a bit more personal to you. So you can take the use of all these civil servants that are given here. And to this, you can also add certain civil servants that you see in your real life or you have seen in your state who are doing really good things. So you can have them all as a list and have a set of 30 civil servants ready, right? So you can take the use of the Smash Mains PDF that they have given. Easily, I think it will have 30 to 35 examples. So you can take it from here, add certain examples from your own, own life experience as well. And an important thing to note here is, for the examples particularly, is don't just mug up the names of the officers. Also look at what the initiative they have done, what the impact of that initiative was it, and what values that it represents as well. So values, where do you have? You have in your third step. Now fifth step, you have civil servants examples. Now actively try to link the various steps as well. So try to link what the civil servants did to the values that you mapped out in your third step, right? So have a set of civil servants ready, right? So this 30 to 35 civil servants examples can be used across the paper. What generally happens is, sometimes they directly ask you to give the civil servants examples. So what happened in 2025 mains ethics question paper was that they asked in 3 to 4 questions to directly give the examples of the IAS officers, right? So I was able to give this because I had revised it just before the exam. So there is 2 hours gap between your GS-3 and GS-4. So I was able to revise it. And just I went in and then I was able to write five new different officers for each question asking the civil servants, right? So I was able to do that. So similarly, you should also be having these, micro notes and keep revising them so that you're able to replicate them in your answer sheet, right? So this is your fifth step, having the civil servants examples ready. Now coming to the sixth step, apart from the civil servants examples, you should also have some diverse examples from various sectors in life, right? For example, let's take the ethical keyword of honesty. So have a personal example of honesty, something that you did in your own personal life, right? Then another one would be a political example where someone was honest, right? Then another one would be an economic example of someone being honest. Then another one would be an environmental example, a sports example, right? All these things can be there. Then another value can be integrity. So in that, have a set of 8 to 10 sectors that you have examples of. I still remember there was this incident where, the sports person Ronaldo, what he did, he removed the Coke bottles on the table and he kept the water bottles. So this is something which shows that he is integral. It shows his integrity. He knows that there are millions of fans following him and whatever he does will be replicated by them, right? So he has the integrity in him and he did this act, which was something can be written as an example for the value of integrity. So this is a sports sector example. So similarly, have a corporate sector example for this, have a social media example for this. So have some diverse sectors in your hand and link them to the keywords and have set examples for them as well. So this would be your sixth step. Now coming to the seventh step is a bit fun, which is basically mythology. So basically the stories that we have been learning or hearing to from our childhood days till now. So stories from Mahabharata, stories from Ramayana, stories from Greek mythology, all of them you can put them together, pool them and have them ready. And you can use them actively in your answers. For example, this year there was a question in 2025 about war is a diplomacy by other means. So what war related mythology can we write here? You can talk about Mahabharata, how war sometimes is essential, right? War sometimes is essential for, fighting for dharma. So that can be used as an example over there. The Mahabharata example can be used as an example. So this is how we actively use mythology and Indian mythology to have adding a variety to our answer, right? So now using this 7-step process that we have, go about fixing templates for yourself based on the micro themes that are given. So it should be an active marriage between micro themes plus these 7 steps that you have in hand. So make sure that each micro theme has some value addition from all the 7 steps that we talked about here. So this is something that you can do. So as sir was showing, I saw a page with quotes as well. So he was talking about, he was showing leadership, and I think there were quotes about leadership as well. So here, leadership is a term in your 3rd step. So in the 4th step, you should have the quotes ready for leadership. So you can take 1 or 2 quotes from here. Leadership is the capacity to translate vision into reality. Leadership is taking responsibility while others are making excuses. They can be sprinkled across it, because I'm telling you, this 2 months will be very hectic for you, because so there will be, a lot of things coming up. You'll be doing your GS1, then suddenly GS2 will pop up, then suddenly your optional will be popping up. You'll be like, you have not yet studied optional. Then someone will come and say, start writing essays. So it is going to be a very hectic 2 months for you guys who are writing mains. So what will come to help you, particularly in ethics, is having the short notes ready. And I think there is 1 week or 10 days for the results to come. A good person who's writing mains this year, what he will do is complete ethics in this time period between now and the result day, so that he is done and dusted with that topic, with that syllabus. And others, when they are starting, he would already be at a level where he has all the notes, short notes ready, and he will be, writing the answers as well. He will be ready to implement them in answers. Now, having these set templates alone is not important. Implement them in the answers, in the PYQs. Now, take the micro themes PDF, check out each micro theme, see how actively you can use the 7 steps to able to answer the micro themes questions that have been asked. So this is a good way to go about in the next 2 months. And another thing to add, based on how you attempt the paper in ethics. So here what you can do is start with section A and then go to your section B, which is case studies. So generally what people do is they don't focus on section A, they write case studies, because they say that case studies are huge and case studies take a lot of time. So I have to write the case studies first and then I'll come to section A. But from a lot of experience of the seniors as well as my own experience, I was not able to complete, the last part of the last case study, not because of time constraints, but because of the space constraint. I was not taking care of the space that I was using, and when I turned the page, it was the rough sheet starting. So I had completed all my pages 2-3 minutes beforehand, and I could not write the last part of the last case study. But then I still got 138, which means that case studies is not as important as your section A. So start with section A first while writing. Start from question 1 till the last, right? So go in that direction, then start your case studies and then complete them. Ideally, it is 1.5 hours for section A and 1.5 hours for section B. But I personally took 1 hour 40 minutes for section A. It is totally fine. Spend a lot of time on section A, because that is the scoring part, and that is where you will be able to show the difference between your paper and a different person's paper and get good marks, right? Because case studies, almost everyone, it is saturated. Everyone writes the same thing, right? So this is another learning that I wanted to share with you guys. Apart from this, there are certain things called the code-based questions. So how to tackle these code-based questions? So for code-based questions, basically, again, what I would ask you guys to do is read the question properly. What they're asking in the code-based questions. What are they asking you to do the code-based questions? They are not asking you to write the meaning of the code or to explain the meaning behind the code. No, they're not asking you to do that. They're asking you to apply the code-based question onto the current context or the present context. What generally people do is they just read the codes and they start writing the answer. They don't read the question that is given at the top. The question talks about explain the present code in the current context and then write it. So that is the thing that is being given there. So that is what you have to be doing, right? So explain it in the present context. So my, how I divided my 2 pages for that would be, I had a general introduction on the person behind the quote. For example, take the first quote here. it talks about Abdul. It is basically an Abdul Kalam quote. If a country is the corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are three key societal members who can make a difference: father, mother, and teacher. So this was by Abdul Kalam, right? So my introduction will be about Abdul Kalam sir, what he was, and a brief about him. So we can talk about him being the president and him being the missile man. So that will come over there, and how he was an icon for the youth as well. So that will be there. Then the second part in my code-based question will be to break the code into two parts or three parts depending on the size of the code. So in this code, I will like to break it into two parts. One part is country being corruption free and being having beautiful minds. There are three key societal members who can make a difference. So first part is talking about how some certain key societal members are helping in making a country corruption free and a nation of beautiful minds. So this is the meaning conveyed in the first part. And the meaning conveyed in the second part is what? Father, mother, and teacher. So these are the three important societal people who actually do this. So write in brief, in your own words, what the quote means to you. So this introduction and this part should get done with the first half of the first page. Now from the second half of the second page, what you should be doing is, you should be starting with the present context. Now here, you should be putting this quote in the present context and see. So you should say how in the present context, parents are helping in shaping the minds of the children. How in the present context, teachers are helping in shaping the minds of the children. So present context means what? In an age of artificial intelligence, in an age of social media, how your parents are guiding you, how your teachers are guiding you, all these things. For example, a present context here can be written is how, Australia banned underage use of social media. So basically, they said that parental guidance is very much necessary before you allow an underage child to access social media. So that can be a present context here, which shows how father and mother is very essential to shape a children's mind. So that is what will make them a beautiful mind and make the nation of beautiful people and corruption free. So that these kind of things you can link it with the present context and write. So now how will the micro themes come into help here? They have divided it into quotes of different people: Abdul Kalam, Dalai Lama, Mahatma Gandhi ji, and all those people. So what you can do is actively find present context examples that can be used here, and then have a set of present context examples ready, so that whatever quote can be asked, you can just easily pick them up and then put it over there and do it, right? So this is how you do with your code-based questions. I think I've covered almost all the topics.
Yeah, folks, if you were listening to this session carefully, right, let me just, point out what Rajah said on the code-based questions, right? इनके आपको एग्जांपल्स देने होते हैं, प्रेजेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आपको कोड बेस्ड क्वेश्चन समझाने होते हैं, ठीक है? एंड राजा इज नॉट यूजिंग लाइक जेनेरिक एग्जांपल्स, राइट? कोड बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस में भी सी our time today is defined by AI, right? Social media, and he is putting in examples from there. He's taking example. वो एक normal generic examples नहीं ले रहा है कि इस classrooms में teachers बहुत अच्छा पढ़ा रहे हैं and value based education हो रहा है. That's a very generic example which would have been valid probably a decade back, a couple of decades back as well, right? It's not that impactful, right? AI की बात की है राजा ने. The social media laws around children, they are still evolving, right? I think Australia ने अभी social media को completely ban किया है, and few Scandinavian countries, India is also tinkering with that idea. So he's pulling in a lot of interesting stuff to define the current context, and then quote cross current context से the interesting flavor is coming out, right? The 7-stage framework, crazy awesome. It's exceptional. It's इतनी simplicity से वो framework design हुआ है. Of course, there is complexity in exploring that to the hilt, but ये 7 dimensions पे आप अपना पूरा material ready रखिए and your arsenal is prepared. That's crazy good. अच्छा राजा, what
Yes,
I
sir.
would want is that code based questions जैसे आपने बताया ना आप कैसे करते हैं.
Yes, sir.
Can we
Yes,
take
sir.
few more micro themes and then you show us the application of the 7 stages. आपने
Yes, sir.
कैसे apply
Yeah.
किया? तो tell
Or
me
you
the
can
question.
take the 2025 PYQs as well. I'll
अच्छा
tell you.
ठीक है.
Yeah.
हाँ, okay. We'll take
So
the
There was a question on war is a diplomacy by other mean or something like that. So you can
Yeah.
take that
So
question.
2025 paper was actually a bummer,
Okay.
right? Because you don't expect you expect certain questions around attitude, around emotional
Hmm.
intelligence. None of those were there, right? So attitude cross एक issue का भी एक standard question आता ही है, and then
Hmm.
they ask that policies वगैरह aside, attitude change is required. you know स्वच्छ भारत मिशन हो जाए या फिर crime against women हो जाए, they've always asked something like that, right? That was not there. Emotional intelligence का question नहीं था, and you had a lot of these um, यही वाले, ठीक
Yeah,
है,
yeah, yeah.
ethical. हाँ.
Yes, sir. But even these questions are doable from the seven
Okay.
steps that you have. Like, for
ठीक है.
example, look at the first one. It talks about Karl von Clausewitz once said that war is a diplomacy by other means.
Hmm.
Critically analyze the above statement in the present context. So there are
Hmm.
two things. You have to critically analyze it and again using the present context. So essentially, we can say this is a code-based question that they have given in out of the code-based, that seventh question. So they've given it
Question.
away
हाँ.
from it, but it is
Hmm.
again the same thing, right? So here, war is a diplomacy by other means. We have to critically analyze, which means that we have to disprove that war is not a diplomacy. That should be written, as well as some points for the statement. So some point, majority of the answer should be against the statement saying war is not a diplomacy, and some point should be saying war might be a diplomacy. So that is where, because we are critically analyzing it, both
Hmm.
angles we are analyzing, right?
Hmm.
So now here, how will I use the seven steps? So the first step, I've had my ethical thinkers ready. I talk about Kant in my notes. I talk about utilitarianism in my notes. So here, how war goes against utilitarianism. Utilitarianism means greater good for the greater number of people. So here in
Hmm.
a war, ultimately one side is going to get affected, and then a lot of people will be getting affected over there. So this goes against the utilitarian ethics, right? So this can also be seen as a GS2 answer. Now how will I make it an ethical answer? By bringing in the ethical concept. So I bring in utilitarianism here and then
Hmm.
write it by saying it's not a diplomacy because it goes against utilitarian ethics. Example, utilitarian ethics talks about greater good for greater number of people, and present context you can talk about any war. The Middle Eastern war that is happening, you can write it and say how it is not good for both sides are facing losses. So it is not good for the greater number of people. So it goes against utilitarian, which shows that war is of something which is futile. So that can be written over there. Now come to the for aspect. War is a diplomacy by other means. Why war is needed? So maybe in
Hmm.
that we can talk about Kant's duty principle. Now, what is
Hmm.
the duty of a country? It is to protect its national sovereignty, which is what we did in Operation Sindoor. We had to protect our
Hmm.
sovereignty, so we
Hmm.
retaliated. So there, war
Hmm.
becomes essential. According
Hmm.
to deontology and duty principle of Kant, it is a duty of me, my
Hmm.
to protect my country. So I will
Hmm.
go to war if someone is provoking me. That is
Hmm.
Operation Sindoor. So that we
Hmm.
can write over there. So I am bringing my first step here, which is to bring in the thinkers, Western thinkers. Now, how will I
Hmm.
bring my second step over here, Indian thinkers? You have Gandhiji, who talks about ahimsa, an eye for an eye makes the entire world go blind. So you can use this either in your intro or conclusion. It is done. So you have used your
Hmm.
first two steps.
Okay, so Raja, again interrupting you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but isn't Kant's view supporting the fact that it's okay to go on war because
Yeah, yeah,
it's your
because
duty? Hmm.
exactly, sir. Because
So,
we have to
hmm.
critically analyze it. We have to write
Hmm.
both the aspects.
Both. Okay, so you
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah,
said
yeah.
that
So against
across.
it, yeah,
Hmm.
against we can use certain thinkers. For we can use certain thinkers. Gandhiji, who is a thinker, who's against it. So
Hmm.
this might be Kant might be a thinker who's for it from the perspective of a country. So
Hmm.
just look at the country as an individual person. From his
Hmm.
perspective, it is fine. It is his duty to protect himself. So he's going
Hmm.
for war. So we are using it. Now the seventh step of mythology that can be used here, where we talk about how in Mahabharata a war was fought to uphold dharma itself. So that means that it is in our mythology, it is talking about war being a good thing for if it is for a good cause. So that can be quoted in the for part again. So
Hmm.
this is how you use your seven steps. We obviously can't use all the seven steps in all the questions, but it provides us a framework to think in. And in the sixth part, where we had a lot of examples, from a diverse sectors. There will be certain war-based international relation examples. So those can be used as the examples for this question. That is how you use your the micro themes based notes that you have made in the 7th step. So that is how you use them to answer a question. So that is what I feel. Yeah.
No, that's again a lot of value addition was here. Guys, I guess everybody who's attending the session, right, focus on each and every point that Rajah is saying, because every point is a value addition point, right? By the way, folks, because we have had the luxury of reading about Karl von Clausewitz, the entire context here, Rajah, is completely different. So essentially, so he is from an era where wars were normal, right? It was the law of the land, and he said that think of wars as another diplomatic tool. So let's say so wars sit at the same level as peace talks, right? So and today that understanding has changed. Essentially, today wars are considered as absolutely unjust, right? So in his era, it was like if you can't, ठीक है, सबसे पहले आपने आराम से बात करके अपनी बात बनवाई, वो नहीं हुआ, ठीक है, फिर आपने उसको बुली किया, वो नहीं हुआ, प्रेशर डाला, वो नहीं हुआ, and then you go to war, right? And he said that so they are morally right. That's what he was trying to say from his time. But आज की डेट में ये है कि war as a last resort is also not correct, right? Even that shouldn't be the last resort. But right, of course, ये चीज एग्जाम में सोचना कि ये बंदा क्या सोच रहा होगा, अपने टाइम में क्या थिंक कर रहा होगा, it is impossible for
us in that 7 minutes to think of it.
Exactly. So in that context, Rajah has put in all the theories, and at the same time, वो महाभारत से भी quote लेके लाके, he has made the answer very colorful, very multi-dimensional. Right, so it doesn't feel like a dry reading. मुझे सुनने में इतना इंटरेस्टिंग लग रहा है. आप लोग खुद सोचिए, ठीक है? It has elements of Mahabharata. It has Kant. It has utilitarianism. It's a nice melody of all these different techniques. Right. Next वाला बताओ. अब आप next वाला बताओ. It's again one of those micro themes where duty.
So here, one who is devoted to one's duty attains the highest perfection in life. Analyze the statement with reference to the sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. So here, the 5th point that I was talking about, the examples of civil servants, they come into a lot of play over here. So here, what we can do is we can, have a set of the 30 examples that I told you to have. So from that, you can pick up 5 to 6 examples and you can put them over here. But the points can be different, but the examples that you are substantiating it with can be from your notes again, right? Sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment. Again, here, since it talks about duty, I would be tempted to use Kant's duty principle again over here, where one has to go about his duty completely. And that is what, helps him to get that personal fulfillment. Not to work for pleasure, as the utilitarians say, but to work, just do his duty. Whatever his duty is, I'll go there and do it. And that is what will give me the fulfillment. So I'll be tempted to use Kant over here. And again, you can use Gandhi over here, where he talks about talisman, where he talks about each and every person. What they have to do is they have to make sure that each and every action that they make is benefiting the poorest of the poor person. So that is basically talisman. So I will be writing it over there. So each bureaucrat, what they should do, civil servant, whenever they're making a point, whenever they are doing a work, they should make sure that the work that they're doing is helping someone. Right, so that should be written over there. Again, coming back to the demand of it, analyze the statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment. So what I personally do in a question is see what the demand of it and break the question into parts based on the demands, which is something basic everyone does. So here I can see that there are 2 parts. First is the sense of responsibility part, and the second is personal fulfillment. So sense of responsibility is what basically your duty principle comes there, Gandhi's talisman comes there, your rules of conduct comes over there. So rules of conduct and all these things are the governance keywords that you will have in your third step. Basically, the keywords that I was talking: good governance, citizen-centric governance, role-based governance rather than rule-based governance, moving away from red tapeism. From red tapeism, we are moving away to red carpetism, which is basically asking them to come in by putting a red carpet, welcoming them like guests. And another thing is also the trusteeship principle of Gandhiji is also there. There are a lot of things that you can use here to show how it is a responsibility of the civil servants to make sure that citizens are doing good. So that will be the first part. Then your second part is the personal fulfillment as a civil servant. So here you can be very personal about it and then talk how like you get the blessings of people. For example, I had a good example of a civil servant who's his name is Jayaseelan sir. He is a Tamil Nadu cadre officer. What he did was he created a colony for the transgender people. So they were not having certain houses for them. So he created the housing opportunities for them and he made a colony for them so that they can live there. And they thanked him by naming the colony after his name, Jayaseelan colony. So they named it after him. So this is something which he will look at as a personal fulfillment for himself. Something that he has done, which is his work, he has done his work. But at the same time, the blessings that he is getting, the appreciation he's getting from the public, that is a sense of personal fulfillment for himself. Exactly. So that these kind of examples can be used in the second part where we talk about personal fulfillment. We have a set of 30 examples ready. So we put them over here and how they, the people will thank them because they have done something which something has never been done. So in some districts, something would never have been done. But then when an officer comes, he makes sure that that gets done, which is basically like maybe taking care of the water reservoirs. So there are a lot of examples like that. I'm forgetting them right now, but we can use these examples. So which shows them that they are getting a personal fulfillment as well. So this is how we use our examples to write this, the second part. And first part, again, sense of responsibility, we'll use the thinkers again, and the keywords, the governance based keywords, we can use it over there. Then again, mythology also can be used where we talk about Rajah and all those things where Ramayana, how it was there during that time. So the stuff like this can be used, sir. So yeah, again, it is a doable
Perfect.
question.
Great.
Yeah.
One point here. How much time did you spend on the quote, and how much part of the paper was on the precise demands, right?
Yes.
Responsibility, fulfillment.
So basically, I see things, there are two demands to a question. One is the implicit demand and another one is your explicit demand. Here, the implicit demand is to explain the quote, but they have never asked you here to explain the quote. They are asking you to just analyze it in reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment. So that will be the major explicit demand. So talking about that will be what you'll be, spending most of your part with. Explaining the quote basically will come under the first half of the first page. So you will have an introduction, brief introduction, and below that I will have a small schematic kind of a diagram or a flowchart kind of a diagram where I talk about how duty is helping to attain highest perfection in life. How duty is linked to perfection. So maybe I will talk about a personal fulfillment. We are getting the blessing of the people and all those things, like small keywords. I will write it and make a schematic. Then I will go on to analyze the statement. That is the actual demand. So majority of the question will be spent on the actual demand, which is to analyze the statement from reference to sense of responsibility and fulfillment, personal fulfillment.
Perfect. Next up, batao.
So I think, yeah, we have done with majority, sir. Just case studies, I'll add one more thing. Do the case studies in the second part, as I said, second half of the exam, as I said, and answer to the point. If they are not asking you to write the stakeholders, do not write the stakeholders. People generally go for writing stakeholders in all the case studies. Do not do that. Like if they ask you stakeholders, then do it. It is an age-old practice which is not relevant in the current context. Writing stakeholders in every question. And answer to the question. If they're asking you to give options, just give the options that are there. Don't evaluate pros and cons. Do not do that. It only wastes the space. If they're asking you to evaluate it explicitly, then go for the evaluation part. So that is there. And if they're asking you ethical dilemmas, use that versus this ethical issues, then do the ethical issues, obviously. And if it is a 3-part question, and one part asks about ethical issues, try to give 8 to 10 ethical issues. If it is a 4-part question and one question is ethical issues, then 5 is enough. Because in a 4-part question, it just has 5 marks. But in a 3-part question, it will have more marks. So it is only logical that we give more ethical issues. So these minor things, just take care of it. Bring your personal touch to case studies. Like, for example, this year there was a case study on MJ Narega, where they were talking that your predecessor was very bad. And when you go there, you see a lot of issues. You see mismanagement of funds. Some people have not yet gotten their due, their due wages, and all those things have been there. And one question was asking, how will you react to this? So that is a very personal question, which they have explicitly asked. But you should be doing that in all the questions, even though they don't ask. Always put in 1 or 2 lines of your mental state and how you react. So I wrote there saying I was very angry at what was there, and it made me a bit sad that people are not getting what they wanted to do. And I made a mental resolution that I will work hard so that people get their due things that they had, so that they are that they have the rights to. So this is what I wrote. So you should be very personal in these type of case studies. Don't just go about writing your short-term measures, long-term measures, but bring in a emotional angle as well. Talk about your state of mind. For example, there are certain questions where there is a ethical dilemma, where there is something bad happening in your personal life. Maybe your son is sick or something, but you still have to go to work. Something this might be a case study. So you're torn between
Yeah.
two.
So, Raja, the one where you are posted and your mother has just moved on, but disaster
Exactly.
आपके district में हो रखा है, right?
Exactly, sir.
So how would
There,
you bring the emotional angle here?
so here you can write by saying if it was actually my mother there, first thing that I would have is an extreme ethical dilemma, and also my emotional state will be at a very high stress level. We cannot be writing an ideal statement saying I'll be fine, I'll do this, I'll take care of everything. That should not be there. You should be writing the personal thing there as well by saying, yes, I will be emotionally stressed because something is happening on my personal front as well, and also in the public life as well. So I will be emotionally torn and emotionally stressed. But this is where I will bring in my emotional intelligence. I will make sure I'm aware of the emotions that I'm going. I will process them. I'll calm them down and then take decisions based on objectivity, neutrality, and integrity. So these kind of keywords you have to use. Emotional intelligence should be brought in. And we also have to talk about our own emotional stress and how we process it. So these kind of personal things should be written in a case study, because the more personal you are, it means that you are more empathizing with the character in the case study. You're actually putting yourself in the shoes of the person in the case study. So that is what I was doing. So this is a tip that I would give to people. Don't be very, and at the same time, we write a lot of measures, the short-term measures, long-term measures. I generally write a disclaimer saying whatever steps I take, I will take them in accordance with the rules of conduct, and also what powers I have, because I actually don't know what powers the DM has or something. But then if we write a disclaimer like this, then if we go about with the short term, long term, then the examiner understands that suppose if there is a step which is over ambitious, he would not do it because it goes against the rules of conduct and it goes away from the ambit of his power. So he won't be doing it. So I'm putting a disclaimer like that. So these kind of practical things I will be doing in my case study, personal things and practical things. Then I will always write a point saying, I will take advice from my seniors. I will take advice from my batchmates who are posted elsewhere, who face similar situations. I will take the words of my juniors as well, which shows that I am part of the system and I'm not a superhero who is coming to save the case study. I am part of the system. I'm working as a part of the system, and I'm making sure that everything is going right according to the powers that I have been given by the system. So this shows that I'm an ideal bureaucrat. I don't work with extraordinary powers. I work with the resources given to me, the powers that are given to me, but I make best use of the resources that are given to me and my powers. So this is the disclaimer that I will put. I also talk about the personal aspect as I told. So these are some things that I did extra in my case study.
Great. I think, guys, so let me contrast this. Any average answer here, and for that matter, any top answer here would also say that, mother is important. That's once in a lifetime event that, she has moved on, right? And much of what you are today, it's because of your mothers. and her sacrifices. So you definitely have to go there and do the last rites, right? But that's where probably even the best of the best answers would stop. Rajah has taken it one step forward, and he has stepped in the shoes of the decision maker, expressed what he is. उसने अपनी पूरी personality add की है इस answer में, ठीक है? His answer doesn't sound mechanical. That's the X factor, right? So I guess, guys, it's very clear how Rajah has differentiated himself across all these different kind of questions, right? आप case studies में जाइए, the emotional angle, right? The entire thought process is being exposed. आंसर तक जाने की बात नहीं है, आंसर बताने की बात नहीं है, ठीक है? उस डिलेमा को आपने सॉल्व कैसे किया, that is secondary, right? Have you felt it to the bones? वो बात बताने वाली है.
Exactly,
and that's how he has created an impression. कोई भी पढ़ रहा है, he will feel like, यार, this guy, he needs to be here, right? So that's the thing. And बाकी सारे questions में भी आप देखेंगे, the 7 dimensions, right? The 7 stages. He has very smartly taken, यहाँ पे second वाले से 5th वाला इनको combine करो, यहाँ गीता से ले लो, यहाँ महाभारता से ले लो, right? So very interestingly, context के साथ चलते हुए, whatever is being asked, being aligned with the demands of the question, is tried to, put forward something that's very good to read, right? It doesn't sound mechanical. It doesn't sound like you have not felt it. आप बस रट के आ गए हैं, and regardless of what the question is asking, आप अपना रटा हुआ कुछ force कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? It doesn't sound like that. Right? So great, guys. Excellent session here. Acha, one last question here, I believe.
Yes, sir.
If you could throw some light on how to design good conclusions, right? I think this is what Vishwas had asked, right?
Okay.
Conclusions में magic कैसे add किया?
It's not about magic, but see, it's about adding something of value to your introductions and conclusions, and this is something that it goes across the 4 papers as well. See, introduction is something which is like a starter for the examiner. It should hook the examiner. I think introductions are much more important than your conclusions. Personal opinion, this is because similarly, how YouTube videos, we have a hook in the beginning of the YouTube video. We cut out the videos and we put the highlights of it in the beginning so that a viewer is hooked to the video. Similarly, a hook should be there in the beginning of the introduction. So it is much more essential to focus on your introductions here. So as you can see here, they have given introductions for your teams as well, where generally they talk. What we can use is, you can use some quotes, good current examples. So all these things can be used as a hook in your introduction. Similarly, a conclusion should be something which is forward looking. So you can again use a quote to end your answer with, but don't use a quote in all the questions. It will become monotonous. And again, don't give this feeling to the examiner that this guy has studied ethics and he has come. So it should be something which is, you should be ethical as a person as well. And it should be a bit, this is a very personal paper. That is why I worked a lot on it and it has yielded the results as well. So be a bit personal. So don't write quotes in all the conclusions. Some conclusions can be quotes. Some can be forward looking things, let's say it talks about social media, negatives of social media or something. So maybe end it on a positive note by saying how social media also helps in certain good things as well, like crowdfunding or something. So, and how our honorable prime minister also called our citizens, now they have become netizens, where they are forever on the internet. But it is also seen as a good thing. So all these things can be written in your conclusion. A forward-looking positive angle should be given. Quotes can be used. Thinkers can be used. A forward solution can be given. Solution-based conclusions can be given. But I personally worked a lot on my introduction. So that is my own opinion, because I felt the hook should be very good so that he gets hooked to the answer and he reads it. So for example, Yeah. One example that I can just think of right now was, there was a question on how the same question, the Abdul Kalam question, how parents influence the minds of children. So I start the introduction with, talking about tabula rasa. So tabula rasa means blank slate. So children are blank slates. So whatever you write on them, it sticks. So that is what is the responsibility of a parent. So you start with a hook, tabula rasa. So that is something which is interesting. You just keep reading random stuff, just writing parents are very important, mata pita guru devam. Like people generally write those things in introduction, but then suddenly you see a paper talking about tabula rasa, then you will be hooked to the answer. So focus more on the introductions.
Great, amazing. I
Yes,
guess,
sir.
yeah, the whole priority is clear. What things need to be focused on, that's clear. Guys, the importance of brainstorming in ethics can't be denied,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And the more we think about these issues, the more we ponder about these issues, the better we are going to get in processing what makes an answer attractive, right?
Exactly.
इतना ज्यादा theoretical concepts नहीं आ रहे हैं. You don't have a lot of technical terms being asked in the paper, right? It's asking you to reflect on quotes. What does it mean, right? इस context में इस quote की क्या मतलब है, right? इस तरह के questions ज्यादा आ रहे हैं, thought provoking. They want to, sort of get into your head and see if you can come up with something interesting and worth staying with. So that's what we'll sort of like, continue in our Telegram group. Last year I did this session where we used to take answers from toppers and we used to brainstorm on how to make that answer better, right? Can you come up with a more powerful example than what's already written, right? So all of that will be continuing. The material that you have seen here is going to be shared with you. The sessions are going to be taken, and I hope to see Rajah again with
Sure,
interesting
sir.
and more deeper insights, right?
Sure, sir. It is my pleasure to interact with people because what I did was I used to look at the topper copies of the ethics topper particularly every year. I
Hmm.
used to see who got the highest, and I will look at their copies. And it's really happy. The life has come a full circle where I am the topper
There.
this year. Yeah.
Acha, guys, so
So yeah,
yeah, on this thought, please understand that, Raja could understand a lot of things by reading topper copies. That might not be true for a lot of you, right? इस session में ही जैसे the things that he shared, what was happening inside his mind before he penned down, the thought
Hmm.
process, the behind the
Hmm.
scenes, right? वो आंसर पढ़ के आपको नहीं समझ आएगा. आंसर आप
Exactly.
superficially पढ़ के बोलेंगे अच्छा ठीक है. He has written 2 examples here. मैंने भी कुछ example prepare किए हैं, right?
Exactly.
But the way he explained the case studies, right? The way he discussed the enrichment that he packed in these public service values या code based questions हो गया, वो आंसर पढ़ के आपको you will not know the behind the scenes, right? So that's a caveat here. आप जो चीजें पढ़ रहे हैं आपको behind the scenes पता चलेगा तो आप उसको और ज्यादा अच्छे से internalize कर पाएंगे. that
Exactly.
is that's the funda here, right?
Yes, sir.
Great,
Yes, sir.
guys. It's been amazing to have you, Raja.
Thank you so much, sir. It's my pleasure.